make a flower. I used to make these when I was little. My mother taught me. So it's just a band. You could make it straight without taking at the bottom, but it doesn't gather nicely. So what you do is you use worsted yarn. That's what I used. You can use anything. And number 8 knitting needles, which is what it calls for. And you cast on, I casted on here 65. You can cast on whatever amount you want. So what I did is that you cast on your 65 and then you make 8 or 9 rows up. It has to be an even number. So
8 to 10.
Yeah, 8 to 10 to 12. You know, it can be 12. But anyway, and then on the next row, you need to take 4 on each side, at the beginning of each side, and then take off 5 at the beginning of each side, and then take off 6 at the beginning of each side, and then take off the rest on the next row. So, you know, you have something like a ladder here. 4, 5, and 6. So once you have your 12 rows, it really doesn't matter, or 14, but now I'm going to show you how to take off. First, take off 4 on the right side. That's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we knit all the way to the other side, and I will see you when I get to the other side. So now we finished that row, and we are going to take off on the wrong side, which is the purl side. So you purl 1, 2, and so take off 1. Sometimes the first one is a little bit difficult to take off, so there we go. And then you knit another one, purl 2, and then another one, and 3, and then another one, and 4. I tend to put my yarn in the back when I purl and take off because it's not in the way.
It's easier.
Yeah, so now I purl the whole row all the way to the other side, and I will see you there. So once you take off 4 on each side, you're going to end up with 57 stitches. I casted on 65. And now you're going to have 57. And now on the next row, I mean, it doesn't matter how many stitches you put in. I'm just saying that with 65 and you take 4 on each side, that's the amount that you're going to have, but you can make it any size. So now I'm going to take off 5 on this side, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you knit all the way to the other side, and I will see you there. Now I am going to purl 5 on the other side, so that's
1, 2.
1. Let's see. So that's 1.
Taking off 5.
2, yes. 3, 4, and 5, and I purl all the way to the other side, and I will see you there. Once you take off your 5 on each side, you're going to end up with 47 stitches, And now we're going to take 6 stitches off on each side, which is knit off 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, and we knit all the way to the other side. Now we're going to purl, take off 6 on this side, so we take off 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and now we're going to purl all the way to the other side. So now I have 35 stitches left, and I am going to bind them off, all of them, and I will see you when I finish binding off all of these. Once you bind off all of them, pass your yarn through the last loop, and there you go. Now let's make something interesting here. I did 65 stitches, but if you want a larger flower, make maybe 14 rows and 100 stitches, and then that means that you need to adjust the edges. Maybe you want to take off 6, 8 and 10 if you have a larger or more amount of stitches. So this is adjustable. This is, I just did it, you know, because this is what I remember that I used to do. And then when you do roll your flower, it has to be with the wrong side toward the inside, like this, because you do from the beginning of your ladder all the way through to the last of the ladder. So, and that's what it is. Now, what you do is that you take your knee, leave a long tail, put it there, and you're going to be twisting your flower like this and start sewing like from the edge to here. We have crocheted flowers, and you can see those if you wish to see how it's sewn, but here we have the knitted one. And you do not have to do the ladders. You can have a straight edge if you want to, but you know, this gives it a kind of a nice flare, and it's not so even. So you keep sewing it around. Make sure you kind of make it fluffy, because you want your flower to open. So now I go like there and sew it to the edge, and you go maybe there and sew it to the edge, and then you go, you see how this becomes like flat. If you do that, this becomes like flat, so I go there and sew it to the edge, and then I go here and sew it to there, and then of course this means it has to go all the way to the last part where you took off, and there we go. Now what I tend to do is make sure that this is nice and flat, because you can use a pin. Put a pin there. And So now, here we are. That's our flower. Look how pretty that looks. It's like a circle.
Rose.
Yeah. Looks very pretty, so you can put a pin there, you can put it in your hat. So what I do also is that I weave in this yarn so that the bottom doesn't move anywhere. So just make a few rows there. And this is what you do when you make any flower that is like in a straight thing, that you don't knit around. So try to have that flat and then make your little knot. Weave it in. And you're done. Isn't that pretty? You can flare it out as much as you want. So I love to do these things. I used to make it all the time for pins for clothing or for my hats. Or for gifts.